What's going on, guys? Right by my teacher announced, and we are here with GPL Season 3 with my draft breakdown. This is going to be a fun one, of course, because we have got a very brand new season. We've got two different leagues, a very stacked division for us. So we've got our work cut out if we want to get through to playoffs this season and maintain our playoff record. But we've got a really fun team. I'm really looking forward to bringing this to you guys. So let's get straight on into it. So just for context, in the draft order, we were actually 5th pick out of 10, which is not ideal. It does mean we miss out on some of the perceived power picks, like Melmetal was gone early, Zeraora was gone early, you know, Rillaboom was gone early, and stuff like that. So we had to work it out to figure out which pick we wanted first. But surprisingly enough, Volcarona got down to me, so Volcarona is going to be the first pick. Volcarona, of course, very much known as a Quiver Dance sweeper. It's a monster when it gets set up. It doesn't necessarily even need Quiver Dance to set up either. You can just run Fiery Dance and just obliterate things anyway. But yeah, this thing's very strong, and it got massively buffed this generation thanks to the access to heavy duty boots, which means it doesn't need to worry about that 4x rock weakness as much. Doesn't need to worry about defog support too much these days. Obviously that quad rock weakness does suck, but it's fine. Does actually get U-turn for pivoting as well, which is pretty nice. Can be very strong in weather thanks to access for Solar Beam for Sun and Hurricane for Rain. Does get coverage moves like Giga Drain, which is always pretty nice. Does get Psychic as well. So it gets a lot of moves. I can definitely put this to good use if I play it correctly. But in order to do that, I need a good team around it. So one issue to deal with that is going to be water types. So our next pick of the draft is going to be Amoonguss. Amoonguss is a fun Pokemon. I've used it before. I actually really like Amoonguss a lot. Pretty defensive pivot. Got a lot of utility options. Does get Clear Smog so you can set up on it. Did actually get access to Pollen Puff this generation, which is actually quite a nice move for it. It does mean that Psychic types can't freely switch in, which makes it a little nice. Does get things like Spore and Toxic, which are both 100% accurate. It is also a grounded poison type, so Toxic Spikes is no longer a problem for this team. We have Amoonguss to deal with that. Regenerator makes it a pretty nice pivot. I can switch it in relatively safely and switch it out again and get 33% health back, which is pretty nice. Do need to worry about the entry hazards though, but we have defoggers on this team, including our next pick. But yeah, bulky utility is the name of the day. Can be run with Black Sludge or Rocky Helmet. I've seen both in ladder recently. Very solid. I wish this thing got Strength Sap. Sadly it doesn't, but nonetheless, pretty solid either way. Alright, the next pick, rounding out our Fire Water Grass core, is going to be an old friend, Rotom Wash. I love this Pokemon. I've loved Rotom Wash for some time. I've used it in draft many a time before. But this generation is actually kind of nice. Does get access to Electric Terrain, which is a nice little move for it. Does also get Nasty Plot this gen, which means I can actually run it purely offensively. Of course, it does still have the utility options like Trick, Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, Defog, of course, and of course the pivoting options with Volt Switch, which means we got a bunch of pivoting already, which is very nice. I think this is one of the strongest Fire Water Grass cores in the division. But there is one that is better than mine, but this one is actually very strong. It is obviously very special heavy, but with Amoonguss typically being run more defensive, I don't think that's a huge problem. And especially with Rotom being potentially utility options with Scarf and stuff like that. We've got a lot of options to play with Rotom, so I'm really looking forward to using it again. I absolutely love Rotom for its natural bulk. That's what it's really good for. But yeah, either way, decent enough. Have options to work with. Alright, next pick on the list. I was looking at G-Maxes and stuff like that, because quite a few G-Maxes were on the table still. I was looking for a bulkier steel type G-Max, so I had options between Copper Ojar, which was still up, which is a Pokemon I've used before. I do like G-Max Copper Ojar, but I prefer regular Copper Ojar personally to its G-Max. Then I was looking at Corviknight, which was a pretty big toss-up. Actually ended up going to pick after me. I ended up going for Duraludon. Now Duraludon, of course, was on Crimpix's team last season. It was very strong, but unfortunately wasn't able to be utilized very well. This gen did get, or this season rather, did get a little nerfed. It is forced to hold a Pokeball, so it can't run the Life Orb set. But nonetheless, still very solid special attacker. Does get pretty strong stabs in things like Draco Meteor, and of course Flash Cannon. Does also get access to the Steel Roller move, which is nice. It can remove terrain, which is a pretty nice move. Does get rocks as well. It's not the best rocker in the world, but it is a decent rocker. Can also be defensive, can run Iron Defense Body Press, which can be a little bit strong. Most people know I seem to like Body Press. People used to meme on me as the real Team Body Press from last season, especially with Orbital and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Duraludon's got a lot of potential on this team. Yes, that lack of SPDF definitely sucks, but we do have decent ones that can handle specially defensive moves like Rotom and Amoonguss already. So I feel like it's already mitigated pretty much by the rest of the team. We do have a couple of other picks as well that have got really good SPDF stats coming up, so I'm not too worried about it. Obviously its speed tier is pretty middling, but again, with Rotom actually getting access to Tailwind, I believe, we're actually okay with that anyway. So we've got enough speed control to support this, as well as Volcarona. So I'm looking forward to using it. It does get nice coverage moves, things like Thunderbolt and Dark Pulse, so there's a lot of options here. So hopefully I can make it work this season. Next up on the team, paying homage to my podcast that I was on with Burger recently over on his channel, we're going to grab Pangoro. Now, Pangoro to me is one of the most underrated Pokemon in the format. Obviously, needing physical power and seeing this still up on the table is pretty darn nice. This thing's got incredibly stellar stab moves and things like Close Combat and Darkest Lariat, as well as Knockoff, of course. But it has incredible abilities as well, with access to Iron Fist, which powers up those bullet punches, which already hit like a truck off that 124 attack stat. It does also get the elemental punches as well, so I've got a lot of punching options to hit with. It does also get scrappy, of course, which means ghost types can't switch in. I mean, they wouldn't really switch in anyway on a Darkest Lariat, but at the end of the day, it means that if I do run it, I can actually just run Fighting Move and not worry. And of course, it has Mold Breaker, which is very, very nice for any levitating users. Pangoro does get Earthquake, which is nice, but it also punishes sturdy users as well, things like that would normally try and live a hit. Pangoro is a monster wall breaker, very, very strong physical attacker, so I'm really looking forward to using it. Yes, it has a quad weakness to Fairy, but I do have a Amoonguss, so I'm not too worried about it. We shall see how well it plays out this season. Continuing the need for physical presence on the team, the next pick is one that a lot of people didn't really see coming. Most people were realizing I needed a fairy type, was kind of looking at Slurpuff, pretty much looking at Ribombee, of course, Ribombee being my mascot. But I said no to both of those, and I picked up Mimikyu instead. Mimikyu, I think, is very, very important to this team. The special bulk on it is actually surprisingly good. Obviously, the HP stat is not great, but having decent special bulk and a pretty good speed tier at that 96 speed gives me a lot of options to work with. Very good SD user, of course, access to Shadow Sneak for priority. Does hit really hard with the Play Rough, does get nice coverage moves and things like Drain Punch. So I've got plenty of options to use with this thing. Of course, it has got the Disguise ability. It's not as good as it was in previous gens. It did get slightly nerfed. You do actually lose health once it breaks. But it still hits really hard, still does a lot of work, so I'm really looking forward to using it again this season. I've used Mimikyu before to mixed success, but I think it's a very good fit for this team. Gives us that much needed physical presence to work with Pangoro, and of course the free sub is always fairly nice. Next up on the team is a pick that, again, a lot of people didn't really see coming, but it's a pick I think actually fits this team very nicely, and that is Braviary. Now, Braviary is a really interesting pick. Obviously, not really a pick you tend to see very often, but it does get a decent amount of utility support, does get Tailwind, does get Defog, so can be pretty useful, can pair up nicely with Volcarona. Obviously, you have to be careful with the rock moves and stuff like that. But it does also get access to Bulk Up, which is kind of an interesting move for it. It does get Close Combat, so bulky steels have a hard time switching in as well. It's got a very, very strong attack stat and decent amount of HP, so it's actually worth using. I think it's got a lot of options. It does get U-turn, of course, for pivoting as well, which is always nice. I've got so many pivots on this team, it's actually surprising. Pangoro also gets Parting Shot as well. So we got plenty of pivots, we got plenty of options to work with around this. So I'm pretty much looking forward to seeing how well we can get Braviary to work on this team. All the pivoting options right now is just insane, and that's just over halfway through the draft. Alright, speaking of Pokemon to pivot, let's bring a Pokemon that we can pivot into on the team. You guys know how much I love Mudsdale. Mudsdale is one of my favorite Pokemon in Gen 7 outside of Ribombee. Mudsdale, of course, incredible physical wall, really, really solid defensive Pokemon. Actually got a very good SPDF stat as well, nothing to write off about with 85 SPDF. But of course, working with this did get buffed, of course, in this generation, thanks to having Body Press, which pairs very nicely with its stamina ability. Can hit really, really hard, does of course get Heavy Slam. It's missing rock coverage, but does get Stealth Rock, which is nice. Does get cool little moves like Counter, which can be a sneaky little tech move. But yeah, this thing hits very, very hard, even uninvested. Obviously, most people may remember Ginger the Mudstale from GPL Season 1. Definitely looking forward to bring similar success back with it. Does lack recovery. I wish it got Shore Up. Sadly, it doesn't. But it is a very, very strong move for anything. This thing's a great Pokemon. Can't wait to use it again. I love this Pokemon so much. It does give us a rocker for the team, which takes the pressure off Duraludon, which is always very nice to have. Let's see if we can put it to good use. Interesting to note, it does get Roar as well, so I can use this for phasing, which can be a little fun little set. I've actually run that before against a lot of flying teams. It's pretty fun. Alright, so looking at the team, I have pretty much everything I wanted here. I've got good pivoting, I've got good physical and special presence on the team. So these last 3 picks are largely just patching up things that I would like to have on the team and not necessarily worry so much. So my next pick, I had the G-Max of it last season, but we got regular Orbeetle this season. I think this is a really, really good pick. I think Orbeetle, with the great amount of bulk that it has, can really put in a lot of work. It gets some interesting moves as well, does get access to Hypnosis, which isn't too bad, but it does also get Recover and U-Turn, which is nice. Does get Sticky Webs, of course, which is what I primarily drafted it for. Additional speed control to support Volcarona can never go amiss. Does get a lot of interesting moves, of course. Does get Iron Defense and Body Press, because hashtag Team Body Press. But yeah, it also gets some interesting little tech moves like Skill Swap. Kind of an interesting move to take away the offensive pressure or maybe some defensive pressure off of my opponent's Pokemon. Does of course get U-turn for pivoting. More pivots, why not? What team doesn't want pivots? But yeah, really, really solid. I'm definitely looking forward to using it again. I loved Orbeetle last season. But yeah, we'll use its regular form this season instead of its G-Max because I think Duraludon may be a little bit better for us offensively. Alright. Next up on the team is actually a Pokemon I used a free agency swap for. We did get one free agency free pick after the draft, and we picked up Lickitung. Now, originally this was Swoobat. I wanted an extra defogger on the team, but I didn't feel like I needed it in the long run. Having Rotom and Volcarona and Braviary all have defog. Not too worried about not having it. But nonetheless, Lickitung is actually important to this team for a lot of reasons. Other coaches in this league do have Weather Cores. DJ and Professor Elm both have Sun Cores, and Xanadu has a Rain Core. So having access to a Pokemon with Cloud9 is pretty nice. Lickitung is actually a very good bulky Wish Passer thanks to having access to a Biolite. Does also get knockoff for utility as well. Doesn't generally do much other than that, but we're okay with that. We only really need this as a weather gut check more than anything else. But yeah, Lickitung, pretty nice little Pokemon. For a tier 5, I think this is a relatively decent little pickup. Does fit nicely for the team. Does give us ways to handle weather if we don't really prep that well for it, although most people know I prep generally relatively well. But yeah, I think Lickitung's cool. I'm okay with using it. I may not bring it to too many games, but it definitely has some use. So let's see how well we use it this season. And last but by no means least is going to be Hot Wheels, Carkol. I love this Pokemon. I like it more than Colossal. Decent access to very good defenses thanks to a Violite, of course, which makes it incredibly bulky. Does get Iron Defense Body Press again, but the most crucial part about this is it's a Rapid Spinner. Does give us an extra way of removal. It's not purely defog based, which is always nice. Does get some cool moves. Does get some nice abilities and access to Steam Engine, which can be a very, very cool ability. Does get Flame Body and Flash Fire as well, which are both very nice abilities for it. Potential fire immunity or potential cripple on physical attackers. Always worth access to. But yeah, I think Carkol fits the team nicely. Yes, I already have a fire type in Volcarona, which is probably likely to be better. But in all honesty, I don't think it matters too much. Look, we duplicated the typing. We did duplicate Bug with Orbeetle as well. But I don't think that's too big a deal. They fill different roles on the team. So I'm really looking forward to giving Carkol a go. Colossal, interestingly, was a tier 4 pick, so I could have picked it, but I feel like Orbeetle added more value to the team. So we picked up Carkol. I think it's good. I think we got a lot of use for it. So there's definitely good potential. This is a steal at tier 5, I think. I'm absolutely a-okay with it. But yeah, thoughts on the team, having drafted it. I think individually this team may not shine as much as you might think, looking at it. But I think this team's got a lot of inbuilt synergy. I think it works very well as a cohesive team. It's very versatile. There's a lot of offensive threats in there. A lot of good defensive pivots. I think generally speaking, this team is actually pretty strong. I think at first glance, you may not think this team is particularly good. There's definitely some oddball picks in there, like the Braviary, like the Mimikyu, which may not necessarily fit the team perfectly. But for what I want them for, I think they fit very nicely. But yeah, that's going to be my team breakdown. That's going to be my thoughts. Let me know, of course, what you think of the team. What would you change on the team if you had free agency picks to use? I'm definitely interested to know. But either way, that's going to be it from me. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Rybombi Teacher. I'm your coach of the Royal Bomber for Bombies. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.